Welcome to the Crying Inside channel, where heartfelt family stories are told with honesty and sorrow, yet always leave a positive message. Each episode here is not just a story, but a mirror reflecting the hidden struggles of life that many of us have probably experienced. Thank you for always being with the channel throughout this time. Your views, comments, and shares are the greatest motivation for us to keep bringing stories that touch the heart, spark empathy, and sometimes make us rethink our own lives. If this is your first time on Crying Inside, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment after watching. Every word you share is incredibly valuable, not only helping the channel grow, but also strengthening our community, a place where anyone can find understanding and connection. In today's episode, we'll step into the story of a woman who seemed to have a stable marriage until a small detail in her email inbox revealed a terrible truth. Have you ever thought that just one short line could turn your whole life upside down? And have you ever uncovered a cruel truth from an accidental email? It was a seemingly normal Monday morning, the 12th of February, 2024, right in Austin, Texas. The chilly air after the rain the night before still lingered on the tree branches outside the window. In a neat two-story house in the suburbs, Madison Clark started her day with her usual routine, brewing a cup of Americano coffee, opening her laptop to check emails before driving to the office. Madison, 35, is a marketing director at a tech company. She's known among friends for her neat and perfectionist lifestyle. Her kitchen cabinets are arranged by color and size, her work files sorted by color-coded tabs, and even her weekly schedule is carefully planned. For Madison, control is the foundation of safety. She believes that, if everything stays on track, nothing unexpected will happen. But that morning, a small detail in her email inbox shattered it all. At first, Madison skimmed through discount mattress emails and invitations to online courses she never signed up for. Everything felt dull until her eyes stopped on a brief subject line. Your upcoming stay at Laguna Shores Resort. The bold letters stood out like a knife, cutting into her mind. Madison frowned slightly. Daniel, her husband, had said he was going to Houston this weekend for a tech conference. A conference, he said, held at a budget hotel near downtown. Daniel was the practical type, preferring convenience over luxury. But Laguna Shores Resort was a high-end coastal resort, famous for its infinity pool, luxurious suites, and couples spa services. Nothing in that description sounded like a tech conference. Madison's hand trembled as she hovered the mouse over the email. She swallowed hard, a cold shiver running down her spine. The screen clearly showed every detail, a reservation for two, from Friday to Sunday. The first name, Daniel Clark. The companion, Chloe. Chloe. That name left Madison frozen for a few seconds. She vaguely remembered Daniel mentioning a new colleague, just a passing name with no significance. Chloe, a young woman with a bright smile on LinkedIn, had briefly appeared when Madison accidentally glimpsed Daniel's phone screen. She had brushed it off, telling herself she was being paranoid. But now, that name appeared clearly, no longer vague, right next to her husband's name in a resort booking confirmation email. Madison's heart ached. She set her coffee cup down, the liquid spilling onto some notes. Her whole body stiffened, as if someone was squeezing her chest tight. "No way," she whispered, voice trembling, but the screen in front of her seemed to mock that doubt. The booking details were clear, the cold words, like an undeniable sentence. In that moment, Madison's whole world flipped upside down. The man she had trusted for 12 years of marriage, the man who always seemed simple and faithful, was planning a secret trip with another woman. The truth became crystal clear. No longer suspicion, no longer a hunch, but undeniable evidence right before her eyes. Shocked, she sat frozen, feeling as if all the blood had drained from her face. Each heartbeat thundered in her chest, rapid and heavy. The pain turned into anger, then slowly morphed into a chaotic wave. Madison felt like she was standing on the edge of an abyss, wanting to scream and break down in tears, yet no sound escaped her lips. She wondered, how long had Daniel been deceiving her? Was this the first time? Or just the first time she found out? All the memories of his business trips, late nights coming home, and half-hearted text replies suddenly flooded back, piecing together a dark picture. But in the moment, her heart felt like it would shatter. Another thought flickered. Madison was not a woman who gave up easily. Throughout her life, she had always kept the habit of control, planning, and turning every unexpected situation into an advantage. This time, she knew she couldn't just react on instinct. She wouldn't let Daniel get away with this betrayal with just a few apologies. She had to find a way to turn her pain into an undeniable verdict, a performance Daniel would never forget. Madison's eyes glinted with a cold stare. She took a deep breath, trying to push away the choking feeling. The pain was still there, but alongside it flowed another current. Determination. She knew she'd have to face it, but not with tears in the living room. She would wait for the right moment, for the truth to be revealed right where Daniel thought he was safest. And it all started with an accidental email. A seemingly harmless line of text was enough to tear apart the mask of a marriage that seemed solid. Madison Clark was the kind of modern woman many admired. At 35, she had built a strong career in marketing. As a director at a growing tech company in Austin, Madison had not only expertise, but also vision, leadership, and influence. Colleagues often described her as a woman who always knew what she wanted, always one step ahead in every plan. Besides work, Madison is also a devoted mother. She and Daniel have 2 young kids, Ethan, 8 years old, and Lily, 5. Their family life in the Austin suburbs was peaceful and well kept. Madison always took care of the house, from the small rose garden to the cozy kitchen where the whole family gathered every night. To their neighbors, they were the picture of a happy middle-class American family, a hardworking husband, a successful wife, and 2 well-behaved children. But behind that polished exterior, Madison was still a deeply emotional person. She once believed Daniel was her rock, an honest and devoted man. They met back in college and went through many challenges before getting married. Madison clearly remembers Daniel proposing by Town Lake, with a simple ring but eyes full of love. Those memories now feel like shattered glass, cutting into her heart every time she thinks about that fateful booking email. Daniel Clark, 38 years old, is a construction engineer. He's naturally quiet, reserved, and prefers simple things. Friends often say Daniel can be a bit dry, but on the plus side, he's serious and reliable. In their marriage, Madison often saw Daniel as a steady support, especially during the early years raising their kids. He'd willingly get up early to take Ethan to school, patiently play puzzles with Lily, or fix things around the house himself. But lately, Daniel has changed. He often uses work trips as an excuse, is away from home more, and his eyes seem distant when Madison talks to him. He clings to his phone, sometimes suddenly turning off the screen when she enters the room. With her marketing sensitivity, Madison clearly feels the distance, but she tries to convince herself it's just work stress. The booking email shattered all those assumptions. Chloe, 26 years old, is a name familiar to Madison, but one she never really worried about until now. Chloe is Daniel's new co-worker, whom he mentioned a few times as a promising young woman. Madison once skimmed through Chloe's Instagram, full of selfies at fancy coffee shops, sunny beaches, and lots of quotes about positive living and enjoying youth. With her golden hair, bright smile, and modern style, Chloe easily draws attention. To Madison, she was just a superficial image, a passing shadow. But the truth told a different story. Chloe had broken into what seemed to be a solid marriage. Amid that storm, Madison was lucky to have 2 close friends she'd known for years, Rachel and Samantha. Rachel was Madison's college classmate and now worked as an event planner. Since college, Rachel was known for her planning skills and her ability to handle any situation smoothly. She was the kind of woman who could turn a small party into a memorable event, understanding people's minds and always having a few tricks up her sleeve to turn things around. To Madison, Rachel was not just a close friend, but also a social strategist. Samantha, on the other hand, had a completely different style. As an IT specialist at a cybersecurity company, Samantha was more logical and tech-focused. She had an incredible ability to find information quickly, from tracing locations through Instagram photos to figuring out someone's work schedule with just a few clicks. Samantha rarely showed her emotions, but was extremely loyal and always ready to protect her friends. If Rachel was the planner, Samantha provided the data and evidence to make that plan rock solid. 3 women, 3 different personalities, but together they formed a tight-knit group. For Madison, Daniel's betrayal was not just a shock, it was a challenge. And she knew that to turn this shock into an undeniable verdict, she needed Rachel and Samantha. At that moment, Madison couldn't imagine where the plan would take her. But deep down, she understood. This was more than just exposing a cheating husband. This was her chance to take back control, reclaim her voice, and most importantly, reclaim herself. The Clark family's life was typical of many middle-class American families. A 2-story white house in the Austin suburbs, with a lush green lawn in front and a wooden swing hanging from an oak tree. Every morning, Madison wakes up early to prepare a simple breakfast. Pancakes for Ethan, a glass of milk for Lily, and coffee for herself and Daniel. The family usually rushes through their busy work and school routines, but in the evenings, Madison always tries to keep a family dinner together, whether it's just takeout pizza or pasta she cooks herself. Those dinners are, to Madison, the glue that holds the family together. Ethan often talks about school, his basketball team, while Lily chatters away, showing off a new drawing she made in kindergarten. Daniel listens, sometimes smiling, sometimes distractedly looking at his phone. Madison notices this change, but doesn't want to ruin the mood, so she stays quiet. Life in the American suburbs has its own unique rhythm. Neighbors usually greet each other every morning while grabbing the paper. SUVs line up to take kids to school, and weekends are often reserved for BBQs or football games. Madison once believed she had it all: a stable job, a complete family, 2 well-behaved kids, and a husband who seemed reliable. Then February arrived, with the festive spirit of Valentine's Day. Stores in Austin were decorated with heart-shaped balloons, chocolates wrapped in red boxes, and ads everywhere reminding people to get gifts for their loved ones. Ethan's school also gave students small heart-shaped papers to write messages for their friends. Lily begged her mom to buy her a pink box of crayons to make a card for her teacher. The Valentine's atmosphere seemed to seep into every corner of the streets and every home. For Madison, this Valentine's might just be a simple dinner, because she knew Daniel wasn't the romantic type. He often used being busy as an excuse to avoid elaborate dates. But at least she hoped for a small bouquet or a cozy meal. Deep down, Madison believed she wasn't asking for much, just genuine presence. But Daniel had other plans. One evening, while the family was having dinner, Daniel casually said, "I have to go to Houston this weekend. The company is holding a technical conference, and I can't miss it." Madison froze but quickly hid her embarrassment with a smile. "Oh, how many days are you going?" "Just 2 nights, from Friday to Sunday." "I know, these conferences are always such boring presentations," he said as he served more food to Ethan, trying to act casual. Madison nodded, but inside she felt a bit disappointed. Valentine's Day happened to fall on that weekend. She told herself to accept it, since Daniel's work was important. She didn't want to seem selfish. At the dinner table, Ethan asked innocently, "Dad, can I come with you? I want to see the tech conference like you." Daniel laughed and ruffled his son's hair. "No, Ethan, the conference is for adults only. You'd get bored." That answer left Madison a little bitter, but she smiled and pretended to agree. Inside, she began to feel a vague distance growing, though there was no clear proof yet. American family culture still values independence. Couples usually have their own space, can go on business trips or personal errands without needing to explain much. Madison used to pride herself on being a trusting wife, not controlling, not irrationally jealous. But that trust was torn apart by just one hotel booking email. That night, after tidying up, Madison sat alone in the living room. The television was still on with the news, but she wasn't paying attention. In her mind, Daniel's words echoed, "I'm going to Houston for the tech conference." The image of the Laguna Shores Hotel came clearly to mind, luxurious and lavish. She knew Daniel had never liked anything too fancy. Yet he had booked a room there, with another woman. The typical American family scene suddenly turned into a fake picture. Family dinners, the kids' school stories, all just a veil hiding a growing secret. Madison felt like an actor in a family play, with herself being the only audience. And this Valentine's Day, instead of receiving flowers from her husband, she would watch him give flowers to someone else. That morning, when Madison sat back in front of her computer, she opened the email again. The family inbox was usually used for small things, like grocery sign-ups, school notifications for the kids, or weekend movie tickets. It was Daniel's carelessness that exposed the truth. The short title, "Your Upcoming Stay at Laguna Shores Resort," seemed to glow brightly on the screen, as if it knew that just existing was enough to shatter the world Madison had worked so hard to build over the years. This time, Madison didn't just skim through it. She opened the booking details and followed each line like a death sentence. 2 nights, double room, Daniel Clark and Chloe. There was no more room for excuses. It wasn't a system error, not spam, not a mistake. Everything was clearly written, undeniable. Madison's heart felt like it was being squeezed tight. She could feel every heartbeat pounding rapidly in her chest, her hands trembling as they rested on the keyboard. It felt like all the blood was draining from her body, leaving behind a chilling coldness. She could hear the ticking of the wall clock clearly, each second passing as if to emphasize the brutal truth. The man she had lived with for over 12 years, the one who shared every small joy with her, had now boldly put his name next to another woman's for a romantic weekend trip. In that moment, her shock turned into sharp, unbearable pain. Madison felt betrayed, belittled, as if all her efforts and sacrifices in the marriage had been a joke. The image of Daniel taking Ethan to school, playing with Lily in the living room, the evenings they spent watching movies together, all shattered into pieces. Every sweet memory now felt like a knife twisting deep in her heart. She wanted to scream. She wanted to call Daniel immediately, confront him with this undeniable proof. A flood of questions echoed in Madison's mind. How long has this been going on? Why her? Does he even think about the kids? But just as her trembling hand reached to pick up the phone, a stronger thought rose within her. Madison was not the kind of woman to give up easily. All her life, she had learned to control situations, to plan ahead. And she knew that if she called Daniel right now, he would deny it, make excuses, and twist the story to make her seem paranoid. Madison wouldn't let that happen. She took a deep breath and regained her composure. No, I won't let you get away that easily. A cold spark flashed in Madison's eyes. If Daniel thought he could secretly enjoy Valentine's weekend in another woman's arms, he was dead wrong. His biggest mistake was underestimating the intelligence and patience of the wife he once vowed to. From that moment on, Madison decided she wouldn't confront him head-on. Not crying, not begging, not screaming. Instead, she would watch, gather evidence, and wait for the perfect moment to expose her husband and his mistress in public. That thought made her calmer. Her heart still hurt, but the pain was now replaced by a different kind of energy determination. Madison felt like she was standing before a chessboard, and Daniel had just made a fatal mistake. She wouldn't move her pieces hastily. She would wait, calculate, and strike the final blow when he had nowhere left to run. That evening, Daniel came home as usual. He walked into the kitchen, kissed Madison lightly on the cheek, and asked about dinner. Madison smiled, pretending nothing had happened. She laid out roasted chicken and vegetables, chatted with the kids, all while keeping her eyes on her husband's every move. He was strangely calm, as if his whole life was still flowing peacefully. Madison looked at him, filled with irony. You have no idea your little act was exposed a long time ago. That night, as Daniel slept soundly, Madison lay awake. The image of that email kept replaying in her mind. But this time, instead of tears, she gave a faint smile. You think you're smart, Daniel, but you don't know. You just handed me all the weapons I need to take you down. Madison's plan started to take shape in her mind. She wouldn't seek the truth any further. She had enough. The rest was just waiting for him to step into the trap she would set. A trap not just to expose him, but to make Daniel understand that betrayal is never an easy game. And so, instead of breaking down from the pain, Madison chose to stand up. That decision marked a major turning point. From a betrayed wife, she would become the mastermind behind a revenge plot. And Daniel, unknowingly, cast himself as the lead in a tragedy he would never forget. In the days that followed, the Clark family home appeared calm on the surface. Daniel began preparing for his business trip to Houston, trying to keep up his usual composed look. He printed some fake documents, pretending to be conference schedules, leaving them on his desk. He even carefully clipped a pen to a stack of papers, making it seem completely real. Madison watched every detail, with cold calmness. In the kitchen, she asked sweetly in her familiar tone, "Have you packed all your dress shirts yet? Let me iron them for you, looking sharp at the conference is important." Daniel was momentarily startled, but quickly smiled. "Oh, thanks. But I've got it covered. It's just a conference, not a big deal." Madison put down the iron and looked at him with a fake tender gaze. "I know you like to keep things simple, but people judge by how you dress. Let me get a few new shirts ready. You'll look even better." Daniel laughed, but his eyes showed a flicker of worry. He didn't know Madison had seen that hotel booking email, nor that the woman caring for him was about to turn his secret plan into a public nightmare. Madison stayed fully in her role as the gentle wife. She packed clothes into a suitcase, even thoughtfully adding a compact toothbrush. Handing the suitcase to Daniel, she softly said, "Don't forget to call the kids every night. Ethan and Lily will miss you." Daniel hugged her and gently patted her shoulder. "Of course. I'll call. Don't worry." But inside Madison, every word felt like a knife twisting deeper. She knew he was lying. And that pain only fueled her determination to make her plan a reality. That evening, while Daniel was in the shower, Madison opened her phone and texted Rachel, "I'm certain now. He's going with Chloe to Laguna Shores this weekend." Minutes later, Rachel called back, her voice full of drama. "Oh my God, Maddie, you can't let this go. You have to teach him a lesson he'll never forget. If it were me, I'd turn it into a public spectacle so he'd never be able to raise his head again." Madison was silent for a few seconds, then replied, "I want to do something, but I don't know where to start. I just think about calling him to yell, but that would be too easy for Daniel." Rachel smiled softly. "Exactly. Don't waste your tears. A cheating man isn't worth it. You need a plan. A revenge smart enough so he has no way to deny it." The next day, Madison met Samantha at their usual cafe in downtown Austin. Samantha was the quiet type, always analyzing things logically. When she heard Madison's story, she just took a sip of her latte and calmly said, "You have your first piece of evidence. That booking confirmation email can't be denied. Now the question is how to use it. If you want to make it public, you need context, an audience, and an element of surprise. That's what will bring him down the fastest." Madison looked at her two friends, feeling both grateful and shaken inside. She didn't expect to go this far, but at the same time, part of her felt excited. She had lived too long inside the shell of a perfect family, enduring strange signs and pretending not to see them. Now, with the truth out in the open, she wanted to turn the pain into a moment of release. Rachel leaned in, whispering, "Just imagine, Maddie. He's sitting there, next to Chloe, thinking he's safe. And then, right in front of everyone, the truth is exposed. He won't have anywhere left to hide. That's real justice." Madison nodded softly. A determined look flashed in her eyes. "I will do it, but we have to plan carefully, not just to vent, but so he never forgets." The three women sat there, in the bustling cafe, yet it felt like they were plotting a grand play. The warm yellow lights cast down on the table, coffee steam swirling, and in that atmosphere, a subtle scheme was taking shape. Madison stepped out of the cafe with more confident strides. A silent message echoed in her mind. "You won't get another chance, Daniel. This time, I won't just be the victim. I'll be the one in charge." One weekday afternoon, just as Madison left the office, her phone buzzed. A message from Samantha appeared on the screen. "You have to see this." Madison opened it, and her heart clenched. It was a photo on Chloe's Instagram. The photo showed only a pair of legs stretched out on a lounge chair, with a white stone wall and a very familiar decorative pattern behind. The simple caption read, "Vacation mode on." No location tag, no face shown, but Samantha quickly recognized it. "This is the lobby of Laguna Shores Resort," Samantha confirmed when she met Madison and Rachel at their usual cafe. She raised her iPad and zoomed in on the photo. "I compared it with the official website photo. Every detail matches, from the tile colors to the distant wall painting." Madison stared at the photo, pain mixed with anger rising inside her. Chloe wasn't just part of a secret trip. She flaunted it on social media as if it were a proud vacation. That was like a slap right in the face to her, the legal wife. Rachel leaned back in her chair, eyes bright. "Perfect. Clear evidence. Now we just have to turn it into a public spectacle. I've got it. Coral Bay Restaurant, the resort's main dining spot." She opened the resort map on her tablet and pointed to the layout. "This restaurant is right next to the main lobby, busy with wealthy tourists and senior staff. If we pick a table by the window, we'll have a direct view of the central area where they'll definitely be sitting. That way, when the moment happens, everyone will witness it." Madison was silent for a long moment. In her mind, the image of Daniel and Chloe sitting side by side, glowing like a newlywed couple, suddenly exposed in front of the crowd, was vivid. That thought pained her deeply, but also gave her a strange feeling. Control. For the first time in weeks, She felt like she was in charge. But just catching them in the act isn't enough, Samantha interrupted. We need a direct hit. Undeniable proof. He could pretend it's just business. Chloe could laugh it off and say it's a misunderstanding. We need something that will shut him up. Madison nodded slowly. A bouquet. A really big one. With a card that clearly says, "From your wife." Both Rachel and Samantha exchanged looks, then burst out laughing. Rachel slammed her hand on the table. Exactly. Nothing hurts more than a truth revealed right in the hands of his lover. Just imagine, the whole restaurant goes silent. She reads that line out loud, and Daniel has no way to deny it. Madison squeezed her hand tightly, her heart pounding. She pictured the scene. Daniel going pale, Chloe throwing a terrified glance, the guests around whispering. A moment he'll never forget, a full stop to all his lies. In the following days, Madison secretly prepared everything. She called to book a room at Laguna Shores Resort, choosing a small suite on a different floor to keep watch without being seen. She contacted the local flower shop, requesting 24 red roses, the flower Daniel once said symbolized eternal love. This time, Madison would turn that meaning into a dagger stabbing right back at him. On the card, she wrote briefly, "To Daniel, with all my love, from your wife." Just those last 4 words she knew would be enough to shake the whole room. Rachel took care of arranging the table at Coral Bay Restaurant. With her smooth communication skills, she secured a table by the big window, overlooking the entire central area. Samantha, meanwhile, kept monitoring Chloe's social media, updating every move to ensure the perfect timing for both to show up. Madison played the role of the good wife until the very last minute. She still prepared dinner for the family, still wished Daniel good luck at the conference, with a gentle smile. But inside, every step of the plan had been perfectly arranged. The night Daniel packed his suitcase, Madison gently placed a small packet of trail mix inside, his favorite snack for when he was away. "Remember to take this, in case you're too busy to eat." Daniel looked at her, his eyes showing surprise mixed with gratitude. Little did he know, the woman caring for him was the one setting the intricate trap he was about to fall into. When the door closed, Madison stood silently in the living room. The pain is still there, but this time it comes with a burning determination. She knows she's about to step into the final battle. And this time, the winner won't be Daniel. Friday morning, the Austin sky is unusually clear and blue. Madison wakes up earlier than usual, preparing breakfast for the whole family. Ethan giggles as he talks about basketball practice at school, while Lily chatters excitedly showing a drawing she made for their mom. Daniel sits at the breakfast table, relaxed, tapping his spoon lightly against his coffee cup. He even whistles softly, like a man about to go on a relaxing vacation, not a dull technical conference. Madison watches the scene with a calm smile. She reaches out to adjust his collar and softly says, "Make sure you pack everything you need. I put a new toothbrush in your suitcase. You always forget." Daniel looks surprised for a moment, then laughs. "You're so thoughtful." "Thanks, Maddie. You really are an amazing wife." Madison leans down, planting a gentle kiss on his cheek. Inside, she feels ironic. The man receiving that kiss doesn't know he's about to be the lead in a play she's directing. When Daniel pulls his suitcase to the door, Ethan and Lily run up and hug their dad tightly. Madison stands behind them, smiling as she sees him off, her voice gentle. "Have a good trip. Don't forget to call the kids." "I will," Daniel replies, his eyes shining with excitement he can't hide. He steps into the car, closes the door, and quickly drives away. Madison stands silently, watching the car disappear down the street. At that moment, the sweet mask on her face falls away, revealing cold, determined eyes. That afternoon, Madison meets Rachel and Samantha at a Starbucks in downtown Austin. They choose a corner table, quiet enough for discussion, but busy enough not to draw attention. Rachel sets her laptop on the table and pulls up a map of the Laguna Shores Resort. She lowers her voice, but keeps it dramatic. "All right, ladies, this is the target." Samantha takes a sip of cappuccino, tapping on her tablet screen. Chloe just posted a new story, a blurry photo with a pool's reflection in the background. This is definitely a resort, no doubt about it. Madison looked at her 2 friends and took a deep breath. She could feel the tension inside her, but at the same time, there was a sense of unity. They were no longer just friends. Now, they felt like a tactical team. Rachel leaned forward and lowered her voice. "Here's the plan. Tomorrow night, Around 8:30, the Coral Bay restaurant will be the busiest. We'll book a table by the window. From there, we can see right into the main area. He'll definitely take her there for dinner, since Coral Bay is the fanciest spot in the resort. Just then, the bouquet will be delivered, along with a card. Madison listened, her heart pounding. She pictured Daniel and Chloe sitting close, laughing and talking, then suddenly interrupted by that bouquet. Samantha added in a calm but sharp tone, "I've contacted the local flower delivery service. Everything will arrive on time, not a minute late. The waiter will personally hand it to them. No way to avoid it." Rachel smiled, raising her latte. "We should give this plan a name. It deserves one." Madison frowned, then smiled. Operation Broken Vows. The three of them laughed together, though the laughter was tinged with coldness. A group of women nearby looked over, puzzled by why they were so excited. But for Madison, that moment felt like a vow. She wasn't going to let Daniel keep living a lie. The conversation swung between tense and laced with bitter laughter. Rachel joked, "It's like we're planning a bank heist in a Hollywood movie, except this time the target isn't money, but pride." Samantha responded in her usual dry tone, "Actually, it's even harder, because we don't want to take anything away. We want to give him back the truth." Madison looked at her two friends, a strange feeling rising inside her. This was more than just a revenge mission. This was a moment for her to prove to herself that she wasn't a victim. From now on, she would take control of her own story. The discussion lasted nearly 2 hours. They drew up a plan, clearly assigning tasks. Rachel handled the dining table, Samantha was in charge of monitoring social media and contacting the flower shop, and Madison took the central role, directly facing Daniel when the moment came. As they left Starbucks, the sunset cast a golden glow over the Austin sky. Madison paused for a few seconds, taking a deep breath. She knew that from this moment on, the wheel of fate was rolling. There was no turning back. Driving home, Madison turned on the radio. A romantic song played, with lyrics about love and loyalty that felt like invisible knives. She pressed the gas pedal, her eyes fixed straight ahead. Inside, pain and anger mixed together, but more than anything, there was an unshakable determination. This weekend at Laguna Shores Resort, it wouldn't just be Daniel and Chloe making unforgettable memories. Madison was going to turn it into a public drama, an undeniable verdict, and Operation Broken Vows had officially begun. Saturday morning, the Texas sky was clear, sunlight spreading golden over the road leading to the beach. A black SUV carrying 3 women rolled up to Laguna Shores Resort. No one spoke much. Madison sat in the driver's seat, hands gripping the wheel tightly, eyes staring straight ahead. In the rearview mirror, Rachel whispered to Samantha about the resort map. Samantha focused on the iPad, constantly updating Chloe's social media to make sure the plan stayed on track. When the car turned into the resort gate, Madison's heart clenched. Laguna Shores appeared majestic, with rustling palm trees, long stretches of white sand, and white buildings facing the sea. The scene was luxurious, peaceful, perfect for a romantic getaway. Madison bit her lip. For Daniel and Chloe, this was paradise. But for her, this was the place where lies would be buried. The group checked in under fake names, renting a suite on the 4th floor, far from where Daniel and Chloe were staying. From the balcony, they had a perfect view of the main pool. Rachel pulled binoculars from her purse and handed them to Madison. "Here, watch, the show is starting." Madison put the binoculars to her eyes. Her heart sank immediately. Below, Daniel is reclining on a lounge chair by the pool. He's wearing pink flamingo swim trunks, the same pair Madison bought him for his birthday. Instead of bringing back happy memories, that image now feels like cruel mockery. Chloe lies next to him, wrapped in a light shawl, wearing oversized sunglasses, looking confident. She giggles, sips her cocktail, then leans close to Daniel as if they've been together forever. They chat, hold hands, and occasionally exchange loving glances. Madison's heart aches, every laugh from Chloe feeling like a needle stabbing straight through her chest. But mixed with that pain is a sense of satisfaction. She clearly sees the ridiculousness in Daniel, trying to act like a charming gentleman. He sits up straight, forces a smile, brushes his hair occasionally, obviously trying to impress. "Look at him," Rachel whispers sarcastically. "Does he think he's still in his 20s? Just then, Daniel suddenly stands and joins a beach volleyball game with some young tourists. At first, he runs around enthusiastically, trying to look energetic, but after a few minutes, his heavy breathing and less toned body make it clear he's out of shape. An awkward jump ends with him face-planting into the sand. The young crowd bursts out laughing, while Chloe quickly covers her mouth but can't hide her embarrassed eyes. From the balcony, Rachel and Samantha laugh out loud. Madison feels like crying and laughing at the same time. Strangely, the scene brings her a sense of relief. The man who used to be her rock now looks utterly ridiculous. Samantha pushes up her sunglasses and says in a steady voice, "That was a total flop. He's made a fool of himself." Madison lowers her binoculars and leans back in her chair. The pain in her chest remains, but now there's a different kind of strength. She sees the truth. Daniel is no longer a solid support. He's just a greedy man trying to cling to his youth by betraying his family, and that only makes her more determined to make him pay. The three women sit on the balcony like a secret observation team. They watch and make sarcastic comments, like judges scoring a comedy show. Daniel and Chloe have no idea they're the center of attention, that every gesture is being recorded, ready to become evidence for a public spectacle. As the sun slowly sets, golden light spreads over the pool. Madison takes a sip of wine, her eyes still following Daniel and Chloe playing in the water. A sadness creeps in, but it's accompanied by pride. She no longer feels small. On the contrary, she holds the power. Rachel softly says, "Tomorrow, it all ends, and he won't have anywhere left to hide." Madison nods, her eyes shining in the sunset. Down there, Daniel is still lost in his illusions. He has no idea that in just 24 hours, the fake world he built will collapse right before his eyes. That night, the warm yellow lights cast a dreamy glow over the Laguna Shores resort. The sea whispers in the distance, the salty breeze carrying the scent of salt and jasmine flowers. Madison stands in front of the mirror, adjusting her emerald evening gown. It's the dress Daniel once said made her eyes sparkle like the Texas night sky. Tonight, she wears it not to please him, but to declare that she's the center, the main character of this story. Rachel appears in a fiery red dress, her curly hair voluminous, eyes sparkling with excitement. Samantha chooses a sleek, fitted black dress, sharp and elegant. The three women walk out side by side, like actresses ready to take the big stage. When they enter Coral Bay Restaurant, the atmosphere inside is lively and upscale. Tables are covered in crisp white linens, crystal glasses sparkling under the chandeliers. The piano music fills the air, blending with the low murmur of diners chatting. They're led to a table by the window, a spot Rachel reserved days ago. From here, Madison can watch the entire central space of the restaurant. And just as expected, minutes later, Daniel and Chloe arrive. Daniel wears a navy shirt with a blazer over it, trying to look sharper than usual. Chloe wore a tight black dress, her smile shining bright, her hand linked with Daniel's like they were the perfect couple. They chose a table near the bar, right within Madison's line of sight. At that moment, Madison's heart ached, but her eyes stayed calm. She took a sip of her martini, lips pressed tight. Rachel placed a hand on her shoulder, whispering, "Just wait a little longer. The main event is about to start." Time seemed to slow down. Madison watched Daniel lean over to whisper something to Chloe, making her giggle. That image felt like a knife twisting deep inside, but Madison didn't shed a tear. She knew, in just a few minutes, everything would turn upside down. Exactly at 8:30 p.m., the restaurant door opened. A young waiter stepped in, holding a bouquet of bright red roses. 24 roses were carefully arranged, their fragrance filling the air. The whole restaurant buzzed quietly, curious eyes following the bouquet. Madison held her breath. This was the moment of truth. The waiter stopped in front of Daniel and Chloe's table. With a polite smile, he bowed slightly. "This bouquet is for Mr. Daniel Clark, and here is the accompanying card." Chloe looked surprised as she reached for the flowers. Her eyes lit up, a happy smile spreading across her face. In her mind, Daniel must have planned this romantic surprise. What she didn't know was that she was about to read the sentence that would condemn the man sitting beside her. Chloe pulled the small card from among the petals and innocently read aloud, "To Daniel, with all my love, your wife." The room seemed to freeze. Every sound in the restaurant suddenly went dead silent. The piano music stopped mid-note, conversations fell completely quiet. For a few seconds, silence took over. Then dozens of eyes all turned to Daniel and Chloe's table at once. Chloe's face went pale in an instant. Her smile vanished, lips trembling. She looked at Daniel in shock, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. You still have a wife?" Her voice broke. Daniel froze, his face draining of color. He gaped, unable to say a word. Sweat poured down his forehead, his eyes darting around desperately for an escape. In that moment, Madison lifted her wine glass, gently twisted her wrist, and looked Daniel straight in the eye. Her lips curled into a cold, small smile. Rachel and Samantha also raised their glasses, their eyes sparkling with triumph. Chloe gripped the bouquet tightly, her hands trembling. Then suddenly, she threw the bouquet of roses onto the table. The clatter made the glasses vibrate. Her voice echoed through the restaurant. "You lied to me. You said you were divorced. You're a filthy cheater." Before Daniel could react, Chloe snatched the red cocktail on the table and threw it straight in his face. The cold liquid soaked his shirt, dripping down his blazer. Daniel jerked back, his face drenched, eyes wide with panic. A hush spread from the surrounding tables. Some shook their heads, others covered their mouths, and a few let out quiet chuckles. It was as if everyone was watching a dramatic scene unfold right before their eyes. Daniel stammered, his voice hoarse. "Chloe, I can explain." But Chloe stood up, her chair tipping back, eyes blazing with fire. "No need. I never want to see you again." She turned and walked away, leaving Daniel slumped in his chair, soaked and humiliated. The bouquet of red roses lay sprawled on the table, petals scattered like his shattered pride. At that moment, Daniel looked up. His gaze met Madison's P's and ADS. She sat a few tables away, wearing a stunning emerald green dress. Her eyes were calm, but icy cold. Madison raised her martini glass, slowly brought it to her lips, then gave a slight nod. A small nod, but enough for Daniel to understand who had orchestrated it all. His face went pale, his lips moved, but no words came out. He hung his head low, his shoulders shaking with shame. All eyes in the restaurant remained fixed on him, with no way out. That night, Coral Bay Restaurant witnessed a perfect act of drama. The man who once confidently thought he could hide everything now sat there like a defeated loser. As for Madison, for the first time in months, she felt she was reclaiming her power and dignity. The entire restaurant fell silent, but within that silence were hundreds of whispered murmurs, unspoken judgments that couldn't be erased. Daniel knew from that moment on he would never forget tonight, the night his betrayal was exposed by 4 simple words on a card. "Your wife." The atmosphere at Coral Bay Restaurant exploded after Chloe shouted out. The young woman's voice echoed through the elegant space, drawing every eye even more sharply. "You told me you were divorced, so you've been lying to me all this time?" Those accusations struck like a fatal blow to Daniel's already fragile honor. He froze, his hands trembling on the table, mouth open as if to speak but unable to. In a rage, Chloe swung her arm and threw the red cocktail right into Daniel's face. The cold liquid spread, staining his crisp shirt and blazer a wet, deep red, like an indelible mark of shame. Daniel recoiled, his chair scraping loudly on the floor, while Chloe took a deep breath, eyes blazing, then decisively turned her back and walked away. The sound of her high heels hitting the restaurant floor echoed like triumphant drums. Chloe walked straight out the door without looking back. Behind her, whispers spread like wildfire. "Oh my God, he still has a wife?" So embarrassing, right in front of everyone. That poor girl was deceived. Daniel sat alone, his clothes soaked, face flushed, not just from the cocktail, but from the dozens of eyes scrutinizing him. He tried to wipe his face with a napkin, but his trembling hands tore it apart, pieces sticking to the alcohol-dampened skin. In that chaotic moment, he looked up, and his eyes landed on a familiar sight. Across the restaurant, just a few tables away, Madison was sitting. She wore an emerald green dress, her eyes cold and bright. In her hand was a martini glass, and her lips curved into a slight smile. No noise, no anger, just a slow nod. That moment seemed to stretch out in slow motion. All the surrounding noise seemed to fade away, leaving only Daniel's gaze locked with Madison's. In those eyes he saw not only pain but also strength, resolve, and a sentence passed down to him. Daniel froze. His heart raced wildly, sweat dripping down his temples. He wanted to stand up, run over, explain, but his legs felt nailed to the floor. He had never felt so small and powerless before. Madison sat there calmly, like an audience watching the villain get his comeuppance. Next to her, Rachel and Samantha raised their glasses, eyes sparkling with triumph. Those three women, for a moment, looked like judges delivering a verdict to a traitor. Around them, whispers continued. Some people chuckled softly, others shook their heads, and some lifted their phones to record the scene. Daniel knew this humiliation wouldn't end here. Tomorrow morning, maybe the whole town, even his co-workers, would know about this shameful night. He swallowed hard, forced himself up, ready to step toward Madison. But at that moment, she set down her martini glass and stood up slowly. The yellow light cast across her face made her eyes even sharper and colder. Madison said nothing, just walked through the restaurant aisle, passing Daniel's table. As she passed, she tilted her head slightly and whispered just loud enough for him to hear, "Enjoy this Valentine's holiday, Daniel." Her voice was soft, but each word cut deep. Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but his throat was dry and tight. He watched Madison's figure walking out the door, shoulders straight, steps confident. Rachel and Samantha followed behind her, the three of them blending into the windy night by the sea. Daniel sat back down, alone, under dozens of judging eyes. His heart was heavy, his mind spinning. He had lost everything, and, worst of all, that moment wasn't just the truth, it was a public confession in front of everyone. The shocking twist, the bouquet, the card, Chloe's accusation, and Madison's smile had destroyed the carefully built facade Daniel had maintained. He knew this night would haunt his memory forever, like a sentence that could never be erased. The atmosphere in Coral Bay Restaurant remained heavy after Chloe left. Everyone sat around the table, but their eyes kept drifting to Daniel, the man soaked with a dirty red shirt from the cocktail just thrown in his face. Whispering broke out, some shaking their heads in disappointment, others whispering to each other. A few diners even smirked sarcastically, as if they were watching a tragicomedy unfold right at dinner. Daniel could clearly feel the contempt in their gazes. Every whisper felt like a dagger stabbing at his pride. He hung his head low, trying to shrink into his chair, but he couldn't escape the murmurs. This man still has a wife here, so cowardly, deceiving both his wife and his mistress. What a disgrace! Meanwhile, Chloe had vanished. She didn't return to the table to grab her luggage or wallet. Everything was still there, proof that she left in anger without a second thought. A confused waiter approached hesitantly, asking Daniel if he wanted to keep the luggage for his girlfriend, but he just silently shook his head. Chloe had left his life decisively, as quickly as she had stepped into it. Daniel was desperate. He jumped up, stumbled out the door, hoping to find Madison. He thought if he could explain, if he could beg for forgiveness, maybe there was still a chance to fix things. But as soon as he stepped out of the restaurant's main hall, he ran into Rachel and Samantha standing right there. Those two women were like solid walls, blocking the path he wanted to take. Rachel crossed her arms, her gaze cold. "You should go back to the table and sit down, Daniel. Madison doesn't want to hear anything more from you." Samantha leaned in, her voice sharp as a knife. "You've had enough chances, but you chose betrayal. Tonight is not the time for excuses." Daniel glanced over their shoulders, hoping to catch a glimpse of Madison, but she was already far away, walking with honesty and strength. He wanted to run after her, but Rachel and Samantha firmly stood their ground, their eyes full of rage on behalf of their friend. In that moment, Daniel realized he had completely lost the right to step back into Madison's world again. In the hotel room, Madison stood in front of the mirror. Her face still showed traces of pain, her eyes slightly wet, but the reflection in the mirror revealed a clear change. From a betrayed wife, she transformed into a strong woman who knows her worth. The pain is still there, but it no longer weighs heavily on her heart. Instead, it became a slow-burning fire, fueling her strength to move forward. Madison sighed, placing her hand on her chest, feeling her heartbeat slow down. She knew tonight's actions were not just revenge, but a declaration. A declaration that she would never let herself be deceived again. Rachel and Samantha came in, gently placing their hands on Madison's shoulders. "You did it. You stood up for yourself." Madison smiled, a mix of exhaustion and pride. "Yes, I've been in pain long enough. Now, I'm not afraid anymore." Outside, Daniel wandered around the resort, searching everywhere for Madison, but she was nowhere to be found. Guests passing by gave him annoyed looks. Some recognized him from the scene in the restaurant, whispering behind his back. Some even took pictures and shook their heads with a smirk. His honor was shattered right where he had hoped to enjoy a secret vacation. Night fell. The The waves gently crashed, and the wind blew cold. Daniel sat down on the steps outside the lobby, hands covering his stunned face. He had never felt so alone. Meanwhile, Madison closed the hotel room door, lay down on the bed, and softly closed her eyes. Nearby, Rachel and Samantha quietly sat chatting, watching over their friend to make sure she could rest peacefully. Madison knew that when she left the resort tomorrow morning, she would walk away as a new person. The pain had turned into strength. And no matter how many challenges lay ahead, she was certain of one thing: she would never go back to Daniel. The next morning, gentle sunlight bathed the resort. The rhythmic sound of waves soothed the wounds of the heart like a healing melody. Madison woke up in the quiet space, her mind clearer after a long night. Stepping onto the balcony, she saw a sight that lifted a weight off her heart. Daniel's car had left early, and his room was already cleared out. He chose to leave quietly, without a word, no longer brave enough to face her. Madison stood still for a long moment. Instead of feeling sad, she felt relieved. Daniel's disappearance was like a full stop to a relationship that had long been rotten. No more excuses, no more lies, only silence forcing her to move forward. Rachel and Samantha stepped out onto the balcony, holding cups of hot coffee. Rachel smiled. "See, the sky's finally clear again," Samantha added. "You've shed that heavy burden. Now, let's enjoy this vacation as a gift for yourself." The three of them headed to the spa together. Madison let the expert hands of the massage therapist soothe her tense muscles. Every stroke seemed to wash away the remaining worries and pain. For the first time in years, she truly allowed herself to rest. No worries about her husband, no hiding doubts, no swallowing tears. In the afternoon, they sat on the beach watching the sunset. The sky blazed with shades of orange, pink, and purple, reflecting on the sparkling sea. Madison hugged her pillow, quietly watching the sun slip below the horizon. In that moment, she clearly felt freedom flowing through her veins. No longer the betrayed wife. No longer the woman hiding her pain. Now, she was just Madison, a strong woman learning to love herself. Night fell, and the three friends decided to have dinner again at Coral Bay Restaurant. The atmosphere was completely different from the chaotic night before. Soft music, warm golden lights, and lively laughter from the tables around. When Madison walked in, a few women sitting nearby turned to look at her. They didn't whisper like the night before. Instead, they smiled and nodded gently at her. It was a nod of empathy, understanding between women who had suffered and learned to stand up for themselves. A middle-aged woman passed by Madison's table, gently placed her hand on her shoulder, and whispered, "You did what many of us wish we had the courage to do." Madison was moved. Her heart warmed. She is no longer alone. She realizes she is an inspiration to others. Rachel raised her glass. "Here's to Madison, to freedom, and to a new future," Samantha added. "And to all women who know their worth." The three clinked their glasses, laughter echoing in the elegant space. Madison felt peace seep into every part of her being. No more fear or obsession over Daniel. She knew that life ahead would bring new challenges, raising 2 kids on her own and learning to reorganize her family. But now, she no longer trembled at the thought. Instead, she felt stronger than ever. When dinner ended, Madison stepped out onto the restaurant balcony. The cool sea breeze swept through her hair, carrying the scent of freedom. She took a deep breath and smiled. Her life had just entered a new chapter, and this time, she would be the one writing her own story. After everything she'd been through, Madison sat back on the resort balcony, watching the moonlight reflect on the sea. Her mind gradually quieted, leaving a peaceful emptiness behind. She realized true happiness wasn't found in Daniel, the husband who betrayed her trust, but within herself. Happiness comes from confidence, from standing tall after painful falls, and from knowing she deserves genuine love. Madison understood that betrayal can destroy a relationship. It's like a fierce fire that burns everything down, leaving ashes and scars that are hard to heal. But from those ashes, a person can be reborn like a forest after a wildfire. New green shoots will grow again. Madison felt the same. She realized this shock wasn't the end, but the start of a new journey where she decides her own path. A truth echoed in Madison's heart. Daniel's betrayal does not define who she is. It only revealed her true worth. She was no longer the woman living in fear of being abandoned, no longer the quiet, suffering wife. Now, she is a free, strong, and more confident woman than ever before. Rachel once said something Madison would never forget. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying others, but reminding yourself that you still have a voice, still have strength. Madison truly felt that. Sending a bouquet with a card that said, "From your wife," not only embarrassed Daniel, but was also her way of asserting herself. It was a symbolic act showing she was no longer silent, no longer letting others control her life. And from that action, she found healing, a restoration of her soul. Madison knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. Being a single mom would be full of challenges, and facing society's judgment wouldn't be easy either. But none of that scared her anymore. She believed that when one door closes, another one opens. And this door led to freedom, to a chance to live authentically. Madison's story wasn't just a marriage tragedy. It was a reminder to everyone that in life, we always have a choice. We can choose to stay and endure, or choose to stand up and walk away. Madison chose to face the truth, turn her pain into strength, and find peace. Her story didn't end in pain, but in liberation. From a wife who seemed ready to break when she found out about her husband's betrayal, she found the strength within herself to rise and walk a new, brave path. Betrayal was no longer a painful wound, but a milestone reminding her that a woman's worth doesn't depend on others' loyalty or betrayal, but on her own pride and self-belief. Thank you for watching until the end of the story. If you felt moved or found empathy in Madison's journey, please subscribe, share this video, and leave a comment below. Every share, every experience you share, is an important part that helps the Crying Inside channel spread more meaningful stories and reach more hearts. Family can knock you down, but it can also be where you find the strength to get back up.